The military has come out with a new injection that they claim is going to be the end-all of injections. It will be an actual vaccine and it will prevent COVID and all of its future variants. Press X to doubt, but we'll talk a little bit about what it means to have this sort of vaccine out there and what it could mean for the future and what it is that I think that they're going to do with it as it goes along. In other news, the Secret Service has reported that nearly $100 billion have been stolen from pandemic relief funds. Shocked. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that people would take advantage of a government program. In other news, the Wall Street Journal tells AOC to run against Schumer. And I'm going to get popcorn and say, yes, go and do that. And the Quidditch Association is changing the name of its sport because, well, they hate J.K. Rowling. It is going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. So guess what genius morning host came out here, sat down today, hit the live button and said, oh shit, I don't have anything prepped for thing I like and thing that I hate today. So sorry for the extended intro off of that. I did bring something together and I did find something I genuinely like. Two things I like today. Usually we do two things I hate, and we wind up doing multiples on thing I like and thing that I hate, but it's a positive day. It's the day before Christmas Eve, so we'll do two things that I like today. I think that's going to be cool, plus one thing that I hate. That'll be the end of the show, and remember, if you guys are just sitting here idling, just sitting here lurking, get at least one message in there, so that Restream will pick up on the algorithm and say, hey, this person chatted in your live chat today, because we want to say thank you. And I do that every Friday, even on a holiday. And I am hoping, by the way, that we'll get to spend a little bit more time doing some live chat tomorrow. I hope that we don't get a bunch of news dumped on us today. I really do. Because I want to spend some time doing live chat with you guys tomorrow. It's Christmas. And you guys have become a little family among each other and even among myself. I think most everybody in the chat I've talked to individually at some point. So I think that's really cool. I hope to talk to more of you guys and just take some of your chat and do some stuff. We're going to do, we'll say some prayers tomorrow. We'll probably do some music that'll probably get us copyright popped. I don't care, because it's Christmas. We're going to have some fun. Hell, this is getting me copyright popped, for God's sake. But we'll have some fun. We'll do some more stuff tomorrow. We will get through the news and we'll look at what the Dow was throughout the day. I believe, and we'll look into the IBD and they'll tell us tomorrow, or when we get into there just a bit. I believe the markets are closed tomorrow in the US. As far as the rest of the world, I can't answer for that, but I believe the markets are closed in the US tomorrow. So we'll go check into all that. We're going to do all this over on Contemporary. But before we get started, do make sure you guys go check out TurnSomePagesProductions.com. In the midst of packing, get everything prepped up so I can leave tomorrow right after work, which we're getting out early tomorrow because of the holiday. So I can leave right after work tomorrow. I have not got the fundraiser set up. We will go into the New Year's looking for about $1,400 more to start up TurnSomePagesProductions.com. We will be going through Give, Send, Go. I do have to do a little bit of homework with Give, Send, Go, though. That's the reason that we haven't got it off launched yet. For all of its faults, for all of its ideological faults, GoFundMe made everything super easy to go back and do. Give, Send, Go makes you do a couple more hoops, and you know, your wonderful host sometimes leaves the ringer on his phone. But Give, Send, Go makes you jump through a couple more hoops. But we're going to jump through them all because you guys have been really, really open and really willing to help. So we'll probably start that over the new year, get that all set up, ready to go, and ready to come and hang out. There will be Contemporary. There might be a late Contemporary coming up the Monday after Christmas. But there will be a Contemporary. It will happen. I can't really give the details of why it might be really, really late, but it will happen. We will continue to have a show every day so that we can come back to those even fives on the end of everything here. But as long as we're talking about Turn Some Pages, make sure, in addition to Contemporary, you go check out The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, The Freckles and Brit Show, and The Porch Boys. Great friends, great, awesome people. People that you should be hanging out with anyway, because they're really cool people. Some of them might have a different ideological view than you, but they're still awesome. And that's what we need to do to come together in this country, is go hang out with people who have different ideological views with us every once in a while. And they are great people too. So go check out all those shows. Go check out the website. Something cool is coming soon. You can find my Twitter, my YouTube, and a direct email to me if you guys want to over there on Turns of Pages. And let's get into the news. Let's start with finance. The Dow yesterday went up 261.19 points, or 0.74%. So that last little bit of retail out there. And I mean, some of the propaganda out there is trying to tell us that, oh no, the retail is fine. The retail is good. Look at all these shelves that are up there. They're all full. Everything is better. Joe Biden made everything better. Well, once we get down to things that I hate, you'll see that it's not all fine and good and well. So that's what we see coming off of that. Your Bitcoin refresh. Bitcoin is at 48,807 US dollars even. That is up overnight to 198.60. I'm willing to bet that there have been a few people who have got their Christmas money on Bitcoin this year. I'm willing to bet. It's safe. Soccer Mom America can come back and do it. I think Bitcoin glows a little bit, but I also think the Proud Boys glow a little bit too. We'll talk about that a bit later on in the show. On your industrials. Copper is on average up. Steel is on average down. Aluminum is on average down. Looking into your individual plays, all of copper, except for brass shells, continues to be up. BX steel, conduit steel, is up. Light iron is down. Number one steel is down. Cast iron is up. Rotors are up. Complete car is down. Shreddable steel is down. Stainless is up. On aluminum, aluminum siding is down. Aluminum copper pin radiator is up. Aluminum radiators proper are down. Cans are down. Sheet aluminum is down. So leave that siding on your house for a little while. Rims are up on your individual other plays. Electric motors are down with copper. Ballasts are down. Lead is down, but batteries are up. So they're bringing the batteries in and getting their lead from there, apparently. All of your catalytic converters are up, including the one that's under the Prius. So don't get yourself killed under a Prius. Compressors are down, alternators are down, carbide is down. But if you've got those computers, hard drives are down, motherboards are down, but power supplies and low-grade boards and a full PC tower all came up at this point. So assess if you got scrap to take over. You should always recycle anyway, but assess what you've got. Assess what the markets look like for that and bring what is appropriate. Let's see what IBD has to say. From Investors Business Daily, Dow Jones futures rise as market rally faces test. Google flashes buy signal. Elon Musk is still selling Tesla stock. This is from Ed Carson. Dow futures rose slightly early Thursday, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures. The stock market rally on Wednesday extended its bounce from Monday's lows, with the NASDAQ reclaiming a key moving average and many leading stocks and making compelling moves. Tesla jumped as CEO Elon Musk said I've sold enough shares, though he later disclosed that he sold nearly 1 million more. Fortinet and Freeport McMoran are above early entries, while automatic data processing, or ADP as most of us in the workforce know it as, is right at various aggressive buy points. Google parent Alphabet moved back above its 50-day line on the cusp of various buy points. Meanwhile, fertilizer maker Nutrien cleared a base while medical outsourcing firm Icon blasted out of a consolidation. Tesla, Google, Icon, and NTR are on the IBD leaderboard. Google is on Swing Trader. Google and FTNT are IBD long-term leaders. ICLR is on the IBD 50. In other news, because we don't have a lot going on because we're about to go into a holiday, in other news, Crocs will buy casual footwear maker Hey Dude, not to be confused with the 90s TV show about a ranch, for $2.5 billion. Jeez. Maybe it's not that casual. $2.5 billion. That will include $2 billion in cash and $450 million in Crocs stock. People still wear those things? Apparently. Shares fell modestly. Tencent Holdings said it'll distribute $457 million JD.com shares to its investors. The Chinese internet giant stake in JD.com will fall to 2.3% from 17%, though they'll maintain close business ties. JD.com stock fell sharply in pre-market trade. Tencent shares rose in Hong Kong. On your futures, Dow Jones futures rose 0.3% versus fair value, S&P 500 futures climbed 0.3%, and NASDAQ 100 futures advanced 0.15%. The 10-year Treasury yield rose 2 basis points to 1.48%. Crude nudged higher. A slew of economic data is due today, including weekly jobless claims, November durable goods orders, and November personal income and spending data at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. New home sales data for November is due at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Fear not, even if we do a full fun show and a mostly fun show tomorrow for Christmas Eve, we will check in and see what the new home sales look like coming in off of that. Let's see what Market Insider has to say. U.S. stock futures edge up as investors cheer positive Omicron and economic data ahead of the holidays. Yeah, there is just so much mixed messaging on Omicron right now. It is ridiculous. Because the authoritarians on Twitter, especially if you're paying attention to Twitter, which is not real life, but the authoritarians over on Twitter want this to be a thing. And it is going to be like fetch. It is never going to happen. Omicron is here and it exists, obviously. But it's not going to do what you want it to do. It's not going to be the be-all, end-all, the lockdown inducer that they thought it was going to be. The work-from-homers aren't going to go and look at the dregs of society that would dare vote for Trump, that have to go out and work in a factory and say, "Ha ha, you have to be locked in your home. I guess you better alert." Oh, cancel those 3 words on YouTube. Let's see what we have coming up here. U.S. stocks are poised to attempt a third day of gains on Thursday, part of a global rally driven by investors taking heart from positive reports on the impact of the Omicron coronavirus variant. Futures on the Dow Jones and S&P were up 0.27% as higher as of 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, while NASDAQ futures were up 0.17%, suggesting a modestly higher start. At the open later in the day, stocks surged for a second day on Wednesday, with Tesla and Pfizer on the rise. Trading was thin with low liquidity ahead of the holidays. The U.S. stock and bond markets will be closed on Friday. There's our answer right there. No markets tomorrow, but we'll still review what happened today. Markets also got some uplift from positive U.S. data on Wednesday. Official figures show U.S. consumer confidence improved in December, suggesting the economy will keep growing in the first quarter of 2022. Commerce Department figures Wednesday indicated GDP grew 2.3% year-on-year in the third quarter, up from previous estimates of 2.1%, but it was still lower than the 6.7% jump for the second quarter. Stocks and other assets have had a bumpy ride since the detection of the Omicron in late November, as markets swayed in response to fresh headlines, but fears about the impact of the new virus strain on economies cooled in the wake of positive news on Wednesday. We'll touch on that too when we touch about the one vaccine to rule them all. One vaccine to rule them all. So, that's what we see coming off of that. Let's get into the major news of the day, starting here, shut up for right now, with a message from the White House. Are you ready to see what the White House has to say to you for the holidays? And look! There's Hunter with a big smile on his face and his big fluffy hat, like nothing has ever gone wrong. And I don't know who the chick is, I'm sorry. So that is the new filter for Snapchat, the new lens for Snapchat. If you have Snapchat, you can go over to the White House lens and immerse yourself in the White House, decorated up for Christmas, with Hunter. Look at that. You can do it with Hunter. Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited for Hunter? No. There's been a round criticism for this in the comments. There has been a round criticism. That's one of the fun things about seeing the White House Instagram is they get ripped in the comments constantly. Most popular president in history. Honk honk. More popular than even Barack Obama. Honk honk. Roundly ripped in the comments constantly. Like Tony the Kid, who throws up vomiting face emojis on this. And Cameron Nelson, who says, that's really cool, Joe, but how about the border and gas prices? Audrey Murray says, too busy getting ready for our winter of death for the unjabbed. Which is going to be an argument, I'm sure. No, most people in support of her. Still wondering how they're planning to implement that. Watch out for umbrella tips and things like that. So, I mean, if you don't follow the Biden or the White House Instagram page, and you're on Instagram, I highly recommend it. Not because you enjoy Mr. Biden, not because you enjoy the propaganda that comes out of it, but just to come back and watch, comments like this over and over again. Now, as far as what we're seeing from this, I mean, the propaganda off of this, they're coming out right now, and a lot of people in the comments are trying to make this seem like this is a unique thing for the Biden White House. It's not. The W White House did this for all 8 years. The Obama White House did it for all 8 years. The Trump White House did this constantly. Little propaganda stuff, little stuff to come out and say, hey, look, I'm just like you guys. I am by the people for the people. Now, try not to think about the fact that I wish death on half of you. Look at me. I'm by the people for the people. It's humanizing. They all try to do it. It's propaganda. It always is. Leaders have been doing this kind of bullshit propaganda since the Roman times. With the exception of Caesar, who was to be seen as a god, all of his governors and prime ministers also try to pull out the image that they were just like the people. Probably not all, but a lot of them were. Because a lot of them understand there's a lot more citizenry than there are leaders. The same thing with the Biden White House. They try to put out the propaganda that they're in control of everything, and if you don't do what they say, you're going to die, winter of death and everything, but they do understand, and that's why we see bullshit like this from all presidents and White Houses. Not just this one. Where they're sitting back down there and the PR person is saying, yeah, we got to do something to humanize these people because there's a lot more of the little people out there than there are of us. And at some point, if we keep kicking them around, they're going to realize that. But that is our daily dose of propaganda for that. All right. For the big news, the title card of this program. Defense 1. Thank you, Ron Helton, for this one in the Discord, although I found it in a lot of other places before I even saw that it was in the Discord. But technically, he was the first one to put it in the Discord. I checked the timestamp, and I think he dropped this while I was still on Contemporary. From Defense 1, U.S. Army creates single vaccine against all COVID and SARS variants, researchers say. One vaccine to rule them all. One bloated government program to find them. And like I said on the Twitter post for this, I actually don't have something funny for In the Darkness and Finding Them. It's early. Give me a break. Within weeks, this is from Tara Kopp, senior Pentagon reporter, Defense 1. Within weeks, scientists at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research expect to announce that they have deployed a vaccine that is effective against the pinko fucking pox and all of its variants, even Omicron, as well as previous SARS origin viruses that have killed millions of people worldwide. The achievement is the result of almost 2 years of work on the virus. The Army lab received its first DNA sequencing of the commie-cough virus in early 2000, very early on, Walter Reed's infectious diseases branch decided to focus on making a vaccine that would work against not just the existing strain, but all of its potential variants as well. Walter Reed's spike ferritin nanoparticle pinkopox vaccine, or SPFN, completed in animal trials earlier this year with positive results. Phase 1 of human trials wrapped up earlier this month, again with positive results that are undergoing final review. Dr. Kayvon Mujarrad, director of Walter Reed's infectious disease branch, said in an exclusive interview with Defense One on Tuesday, the new vaccine will still need to undergo Phase 2 and Phase 3 trials. We're testing our vaccine against all the different variants, including Omicron, Mujarrad said. On Wednesday, Walter Reed officials said in a statement that its vaccine was not tested on the Omicron variant, but later clarified in an email to Defense One that while the recently discovered variant was not part of the animal studies, it's being tested in the lab against clinical trial samples. In humans, these neutralization assays test whether the antibodies can inhibit the growth of a virus. We want to wait for those clinical data to be able to kind of make the full public announcement. But so far, everything has been moving along exactly as we'd hoped, Mujarrad said. Unlike the existing vaccines, Walter Reed's SPFN uses a soccer ball-shaped protein with 24 bases for its vaccine, which allows scientists to attach the spikes of multiple coronavirus strains on different bases of the protein. It's very exciting to get to this point for our entire team, and I think for the entire army as well, Mujarrad said. The vaccine's human trials took longer than expected, he said, because the lab needed to test the vaccine on subjects who had neither been vaccinated nor previously infected with the commie-cough. Increasing vaccination rates and the rapid spread of Delta and Omicron variants made that difficult. With Omicron, there's really no way to escape this virus. You're not going to be able to avoid it. So I think pretty soon the whole world will be vaccinated or have been infected, Mujarrad said. The next step is seeing how the new pan-coronavirus vaccine interacts with people who were previously vaccinated or previously sick. Walter Reed is working with a yet-to-be-named industry partner for that wider rollout. Pfizer. Oops, did I say that out loud? Alright, so there are a few things going on with this. A few things that I think are going to happen with this, and a few things that have been brought to my attention with this. Now, when I first saw this, when I first realized that this would be a be-all, catch-all, end-all for the coronavirus, if true, and that's the important part for me, if true, because I've seen government propaganda before. I mean, I read CNN almost every day. I know what government propaganda looks like. But first and foremost, if this is true, and that's why I said Pfizer when they said unnamed industry partner. If this is true, I would anticipate that Pfizer or Moderna come out and buy this thing up for billions upon billions of dollars. Maybe they'll take some of the billions of dollars that they invoice the U.S. government for the jab. They buy this thing up, and you remember the Family Guy episode? I talked with Rachel about this on Monday. The Family Guy episode where Carter comes out and Brian and Stewie find out that Carter has the cure for cancer in a small little vial in a penthouse locked in a safe because they make more money off therapeutics, treatments, and a lifetime of therapeutics than whatever was in that glowing vial. I would say that Pfizer goes off and spends like $10 billion on this thing from the U.S. government. They go buy up the formula, and it gets locked in a vault. Because the authoritarians in government, until they're face down with rifles, by the way, which then they might come back out and release it, but until they are face down with some significant pushback, they are making too much money and gaining too much power off the lockdownerism. They're making too many in-kind donations, or getting too many in-kind donations from the big pharma people. to ever give any of this up. And if everything that's been given to us on its face from Defense One is true, then all of that power goes away instantly. Now, the other side of this. Shalaga pointed out in the chat, confidence in the vaccine, fading hard in the mainstream. Or am I in an echo chamber? Well, there's possibly both sides of that. It's possible you could be in an echo chamber, but there's also there is COVID fatigue at this point. The Omicron fear-mongering that they came out with as soon as they said Omicron. Omicron, I've heard that variant before. As soon as they said the Omicron variant, you had the initial kick of lockdownerism, the initial kick of people saying, you have to do this, otherwise you're a bad person once again. But it's just fatigue at this point. You've had your necks, your feet, or your knee. You've had your knee on the neck of the American people for almost 2 years at this point. In March, it's going to be 2 years. For 2 years, you've had your knee on the neck of the American people. At some point, even your most ardent fans, and we will be talking about this later on too, when we talk about the January 6th thing. But even your most ardent fans, when you've had your knee on the neck of people for this long, are looking at you and saying, hey, what the fuck, bro? You said you were going to take care of this. And we are seeing some people that are starting to, they're maybe not there yet. Like Trevor Noah, that's a great example. The clip that we watched on Monday, where he's starting to realize that it is the big pharma companies that are making billions of dollars off of this vaccine. And he's starting to say, well, if we don't get this new, if you don't go out and get this new booster right away, then we'll be within this forever. Trevor Noah is almost there and realizing what the propaganda is with this. If he had just taken that thought process that he had, or his writers had, and taken it one step further, he'd realize what this is actually all about and who is making the money off of this. And then, of course, the last thing of this is actually a thing, and this is actually going to come back out and cure this, and everybody's going to run and say, hey, praise Biden, hooray, Biden beat the COVID. So there are a few angles that this go. I don't know what this is, but there are a few angles that I can see coming out of this. But that's what they have to say with that. All right, what do we have here? This thread here from Jordan Schachtel at dossier.substack.com just did some digging. This is much hyped COVID vaccine trial only has 29 human participants for the whole thing. Seems very legit and true. But let's actually look back at this because he screenshotted the same article we just read. Let me be the first to register my doubts on this claim. I don't think you were the first to register your doubts, but you beat me to making them public because you were 22 hours before me. It is impossible to prove the success of human trials in a month. Yeah. No, we get that. We understand that. How did they already find a bunch of people for an Omicron trial, which just popped up on the radar? This is utterly insane. I don't believe a word of it, to be honest. The same Walter Reed expert consensus injected President Trump with remdesivir, which is essentially poison. And yet, he got up and did rally after rally right after that. Now they claim to have a vax for everything. What could go wrong? Now, this is a phase 1 trial, and I don't really honestly think that this is, even if this does get released to the public, I don't think that this is going to be out for a little while. I think this is going to be a few months before we see anything off of this, but, that's what this guy has to say. On the other side of this, here's a little bit of good news for you. I don't have any faith that the Supreme Court's going to come out on top of anything else on this, or even issue an injunction. So there might be mandates out there for a little while, but from CNBC, Supreme Court will hear challenges to Biden COVID vaccine mandates. From Dan Mangan. The Supreme Court late Wednesday agreed to hear legal challenges to the Biden admin's COVID-19 vaccine mandates for large employers and healthcare facilities. The court, in an order, said that its consideration for requests to stay those mandates would be deferred until oral arguments on January 7th, which all the mandates start on January 4th, although enforcement doesn't begin until the 10th. So, as of right now, there is no stay. And that's important, because as of right now, you do need to assess what's going to happen with your life and where your life is going to go because of it. You need to sit down, if you work for a large employer, and have a conversation with your supervisor and say, hey, am I good? Am I not good? If you don't have both doses and all 71 of your boosters, you need to sit down with your employer and say, hey, we got to sit down and figure this out here, okay? So let me know what the best course of action is. Let me know what to do. Because you could get fired. If they think they're going to cost you, they think you're going to cost them 10 grand a pop. So because there's no stay, and this is all supposed to start on the 4th, that is something a conversation you need to go and have. The Supreme Court consolidated the applications of both challenges, which were considered by Brett Kavanaugh and Samuel Alito. Both will be heard on January 7th. Lower court orders, which allowed the employer mandate and partially allowed the healthcare worker mandate, will remain in effect until then. Late Wednesday, the House Press Secretary, red-haired bobblehead, said the administration is confident in the legal authority of both policies and that the Justice Department would defend both. Yeah, but not the Supreme Court. Let me circle back to that, especially as the U.S. faces the highly transmissible Omicron variant. It's critical to protect workers with vaccination requirements and testing protocols that are urgently needed, she said in a statement. At a critical moment for the nation's health, the OSHA vaccination or testing rule ensures that employers are protecting their employees, and the CMS healthcare vaccination requirements ensures that the providers are protecting their patients. Okay, next question, please. Last week, the Sixth Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals reinstated the mandate for large businesses under which employers must require their workers to either get vaccinated or face weekly testing for the pinko fucking pox. Shortly after the Sixth Circuit ruling, the groups challenging the large business rule asked the Supreme Court to review the case. The group challenging the mandate includes 27 states with Republican attorneys general or governors, private businesses, religious groups, and the national industry associations such as the National Retail Federation, the American Trucking Associations, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Okay. I need to back up here because I can do math. Now, first and foremost, I have always said, going back to Jacobson versus Massachusetts, if your state feels the need, and they've got the legislative power to do so, luckily my state does not, to come out and make a vaccine mandate for public health on a state level, we have found that is perfectly constitutional by Jacobson versus Massachusetts. Although, with this coming up here, I would question whether or not that's actually going to change. You know, they're driving something towards the Supreme Court, and I think it's going to be disastrous for them. With that being said, you know, we keep hearing how democracy is such an important thing. How the will of democracy is supposed to be the thing. I'm pretty sure 27 states is more than half of the country. It's been a while since first grade math class. But I'm pretty sure that 27 is more than 25. Somebody fact check me on that one? And it's the same thing when this goes with, you know, everybody's out there on NBC, up in arms. Oh, one senator is blocking Biden's agenda. One senator is preventing Biden's agenda from going through. What about the other 50? Hey, it sounds like the nays have a simple majority. Isn't that what you want? A simple majority to rule everything? Pretty sure 51 is more than 50, which means it's more than half of the Senate. 27's more than 25. This seems to be a majority opinion here, folks. And I mean, if you're in a massive blue state with massive blue governance that's either has a Democrat governor or is about to have a Democrat governor, like maybe New York, California, Georgia, places like that, then you have to consult with your local laws and your state laws. Plain and simple. I'm sure Stacey Abrams is sitting out there licking the gap between her teeth, wondering how she's going to be able to come down and enforce a vaccine mandate on people and get her kickbacks from Pfizer if this gets thrown out at a federal level, which I think it is. But then you've also got the National Retail Federation, the American Trucking Association, the National Federation of Independent Business. 3 massive unions of people, not like a labor union, but 3 massive groups of people, making up a lot of people on the job force. And lastly, once again, even if you're on the retail side and you want to get this vaccine, go out and get it. If that's what you want to do, if that's how you feel you need to be in order to be the safest in society, go get this thing. But you can't pressure yourself onto other people. That's just the long and short of it. The Biden admin proposed 2 rules November 4th that together covered more than 100 million U.S. workers. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services required 76,000 health facilities that take Medicare or Medicare payments to ensure their 17 million employees were fully vaccinated. The Department of Labor also proposed its own rule affecting private employers with 100 or more workers, requiring them to get vaccinated or face weekly COVID testing by January 4th. The only thing, and this is the last thing I'll say on this because I've actually read the entire article and I rarely do that. The only thing with this is they might have a leg to stand on for the Medicare and Medicaid services. The Medicare payments. They might have a leg to stand on for that because that may be a quid pro quo for taking the federal payments. I don't know. I would actually have to sit down and research the legality behind that. But on its surface, with my limited knowledge of the law, that does seem like that would actually be a fair thing, that they would have authority over that. So those of you out there that take the Medicare and Medicaid that got in bed with the government, you might have to face off on your own. It's not something I like, but because of the way the contracts are written up for that, you might actually have to face that one down. Or get out of Medicare, one of the two. But as for the rest of us, I don't believe this is constitutional. We will see what's happening with this. Apparently Shapiro is the one who's bringing the lawsuit up to there, so we will see what happens with that. All right. Your personal freedom is holding the rest of us hostage. Ana Navarro Cardenas says she does not want to know any unvaccinated people. Are we talking like she doesn't want to know them in the biblical sense? Because pretty sure that could be arranged. Pretty sure that nobody who's unvaccinated would go anywhere near that. Not because she's not unattractive. I mean, she's pretty. But everybody knows because she's got a public platform that she's fucking psychotic. Actually, I take that back because some of those people get off on that. It's me. I'm some of those people. From Alex Nitzberg. Ana Navarro Cardenas issued a tweet declaring that she does not want to be around or even know anyone who remains unvaccinated against COVID-19 without having a medical reason for their decision. Unless you have a legitimate medical reason, if you're not vaccinated, I don't want to see you, talk to you, work with you, socialize with you, or know you. It's enough. Your personal freedom is holding the rest of us hostage. It's selfish and stupid, she tweeted on Monday. While many people have been vaccinated against the pinko pox, others have chosen not to get the shots, and the issue has proven to be a controversial topic. Is this supposed to be a punishment or something? It actually sounds awesome, Blaze Media's Sarah Gonzalez tweeted in response to Navarro Cardenas' post. And this is, of course, in promotion of gay guy candle company's candle that says, "If you're not vaccinated, get the fuck out of my house, okay? Now, get out, you big silly." In a tweet on Sunday, Navarro Cardenas declared, "This is not about politics or party. It's about life or death, sickness or health. It's about life as we know it. COVID's back with a vengeance." I don't know about that. I think that's a lot of fear-mongering to get more control. Shame on those standing in the way of mandates for political theater. They need to stop the bullshit. People, please get vaccinated. So, just a little thing that bugs me off of this. Now, Beck's website, The Blaze, is supposed to be this uber Christian, like neocon Christian site. Not like Royper Christian, actual Christian. This uber Christian site. So they bleep out the bullshit when they type it. But they're loud and proud to display it on the tweet. They don't blur it out there. On my 24-inch monitor, that is 6 inches between here and here. St. Anthony of Fauci, the patron saint of medicine, recently said that people should tell unvaccinated members of their family not to visit. Well, all my family is vaccinated, so I can tell them to visit. But you need to make sure that the unvaccinated members of your family, that they're like second-class citizens, and you can't invite them to your home. So, that's what they had to say for that. From the Associated Press, the Pfizer pill becomes the first U.S. authorized home COVID treatment. From Matthew Perrone. Hey guys, even before it was approved, hey, we had the government bought 550 million doses of the Pfizer pill. That's going to be free to you. And the dollar signs lit up in Andrew, is it Andrew Borla? Albert Borla. Albert Borla, I'm sorry. The dollar signs lit up in Albert Borla's eyes. U.S. health regulators on Wednesday authorized the first pill against the pinko pox, a Pfizer drug, shocker, that Americans will be able to take at home to head off the worst effects of the virus. The long-awaited milestone comes as U.S. cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are all rising, and health officials warn of a tsunami of new infections from the Omicron variant that could overwhelm hospitals. The drug, Paxlovid, is the faster way to treat early COVID-19 infections. Through initial supplies will be extremely limited. All of the previously authorized drugs against the disease require an IV or an injection. Except for that high thing that we can't mention in Droxy to everything that could be chloroquine. That doesn't require an IV or an injection. Or the thing that, that Mectin thing that nobody can get either. You don't need an IV or an injection for that either, do you? An antiviral pill from Merck is also expected to soon win authorization, but Pfizer's drug is all but certain to be the preferred option because the government's going to give it away for free. Because of its mild side effects and superior effectiveness, including a nearly 90% reduction in hospitalizations and deaths among patients most likely to get the severe disease. The efficacy is high, the side effects are low, and it's oral. It checks all the boxes. If you add cheap, it would be like the two instances that I walked my way around mentioning earlier. You know, things that you can make for 5 cents a pill, 10 cents a pill. Rather than what are these going for? I think it's like, what, $50 a treatment? Billed to the U.S. government at 550 million doses. Paid for by the U.S. government, by the taxpayer. What have I said from the beginning of the vaccination thing? Follow the money. you're looking at 90% decreased risk of hospitalization and death in a high-risk group. That's stunning and brave. Anyway, well, I guess if you get the pinko pox and you have to go to the hospital, then you can go get the Pfizer-Mectin. I said Pfizer-Mectin, Susan. Don't ban me. You have your human people come back and look at that. Is this news site really called Wham? Do we need to come back and listen to Last Christmas because of this? Is it really called Wham? Are you serious? From Wham 13 ABC, Last Christmas, they gave you their hearts. Rochester disease experts say Pfizer pill is encouraging, but prevention is key. From Tyler Brown. A new pill to fight the pinko pox pandemic is coming in the form of a pill. Wednesday, the FDA authorized the first pill in the U.S. to treat the effects of the pinko pox from home. Former State Senator Ted O'Brien, who fought the disease for 68 days in the hospital, says the new treatment is encouraging. Let's check the tech. I've got video on the DLive side, so it might be on your end, but DLive on mobile, I know you use mobile quest spanning. DLive on mobile is kind of janky. So it might be a problem between your device and their janky service. It might not be just you, but we'll go back and check it. Alright, anyway. Technical stuff, on-air production. Former State Senator Ted O'Brien, who fought the disease for 68 days in the hospital, says the new treatment is encouraging. If you fought the disease for 68 days in the hospital, you got something else going on, dude. In March of 2020, he was diagnosed with the pinko pox. It was a long time before there were any vaccines, and the disease, as well as possible treatments for it, was still new to many doctors. At the time I had the commie coof, there were really no preferred treatments. People were doing research trying to figure out what to do, O'Brien says. O'Brien's case later became even more severe. I was on a ventilator, in ICU, in an induced coma, and the folks at Rochester General Hospital figure out how to save me, but it was a really close call. I almost didn't make it, O'Brien said. And the Oscar goes to... O'Brien survived and now is back at full health in a world where vaccines for the pinko pox are widely available. There are so many resources that are available to us now, and it's just up to us to take advantage to protect ourselves and those around us, he says. Now a new game changer is coming to pharmacies. Studies say the Pfizer-made antiviral pills are 89% effective at preventing serious illness or hospitalizations when given to people with mild to moderate COVID within 3 days of symptoms. The pills must be prescribed by a doctor, and patients must take multiple pills for 5 days. Dr. David Dobrinsky, if that's what we're going to go with for that, an assistant medical professor in the Division of Infectious Diseases at URMC, says the pill has the potential to help revive probably, already overwhelmed hospital systems. It's a really big deal because you can give it to patients at home. We don't have to bring people into the hospital to get the monoclonal antibodies to get infused through an IV, Dr. Dobrinsky says. We can treat people before they get severe disease, which looks like this pill does a really effective job, and it will really take a burden off our hospital system, he adds. Dr. Emil Lesho, infectious disease specialist with Rochester Regional Health, says the data about the new treatment is encouraging, but says prevention is still important. The most important thing on my mind is that it's still no substitute for prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, Dr. Lesho says. Even though this pill is shown to reduce hospitalizations and death and viral load, which is a good thing for contagiousness, you still get a mild infection or even a moderate infection. We know in previous cases that mild and moderate infection can result in long COVID or prolonged side effects, he said. So, we have the pill, which I'm not going to take. We have the vaccine, which I'm not going to take. We have the potential for the military vaccine, which I'm not going to take. And we have the 2 evil drugs that cannot be named on YouTube, which I'm not going to take. And yet the thing that they're saying the most is still, lock it down. Don't let anybody out of their houses. I don't know. We'll see off of that. Dr. Birx got into the news this week. I just can't. Dr. Deborah Birx privately blasted the Trump White House's COVID-19 strategy while publicly giving it cover, email show. From Grace Panetta. Dr. Deborah Birx, the former White House coronavirus response coordinator, said the Trump White House's approach to the pinko pox would contribute to an unacceptable death toll, especially among people of color, while publicly giving the strategy cover. Newly published email show. On August 24, 2020, Birx pulled out of a planned White House roundtable featuring a small group of inside medical experts advising the White House, according to new emails obtained by the House Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus. The group included people who publicly advocated for limiting coronavirus restrictions and pushed a herd immunity strategy that, in theory, would have focused on protections for the most vulnerable populations like older people and limited mitigation strategies like masking and social distancing for the rest of the population. Trump's prepared remarks for the roundtable said that the unending lockdowns were not a science-based approach and it would inflict grave harm on our children and our entire society. And I love our society. It's the best society, okay? We have the best society. There's no better society. Never has been, never will be, okay? We cannot give grave harm to our entire society, okay? On the morning of August 25th, 2020, Birx wrote an email to Vice President Pence's chief of staff at the time, Mark Short, explaining why she couldn't be part of the roundtable. I can't be part of this with people who believe in herd immunity and believe that we are fine with only protecting 1.5 million Americans in LTCF and not the 80 million with comorbidities in the population. If you have 80 million people with comorbidities in your population, you've got bigger problems. Included in the unacceptable death toll among Native Americans, Hispanics, and blacks, Birx wrote to Short, referring to long-term care facilities as LTCF. Most experts at the time said that isolating vulnerable people from the rest of the population was not feasible because of the highly transmissible nature of the common cough, and that getting to herd immunity through infecting most of the population before rollout of vaccines would lead to a staggering number of deaths. The higher rates of transmission would also be made it too exceedingly hard to shield the most vulnerable. Birx said the death toll could rise to 500,000 by the time the U.S. had the vaccine, adding, without masks and social distancing in public and homes, we could end up with twice as many deaths. We are a very unhealthy nation with a lot of obesity, etc. I'm sorry, that's kind of based. Like, I don't agree with the idea, and I think that we should have gone out and got everybody we could, as good as an infected as we could have, because this would be a lot less severe at this point if we hadn't mitigated everything that we could possibly mitigate. But Dr. Birx come out here and say, hey, we got a bunch of fat people in this country, and we can't go out and do this. It's kind of based. Not gonna lie. All right, surprise, surprise, a government program got abused from the Associated Press. Secret Service, nearly $100 billion stolen in pandemic relief funds. Yeah, that's not a headline, that's the name of the fucking magazine. Nearly $100 billion at minimum has been stolen from the Pinko Pox relief program set up to help businesses and people who lost their jobs due to the pandemic, the Secret Service said on Tuesday. The estimate is based on Secret Service's case data from the Labor Department and the Small Business Administration, said Roy Dotson, the agency's National Pandemic Fraud Recovery Coordinator. In an interview, the Secret Service didn't include COVID-19 fraud cases persecuted by the Justice Department. While roughly 3% of the $3.4 trillion dispersed, the amount stolen from the pandemic benefits programs shows the sheer size of the pot is enticing to the criminals, Dotson said. Most of that figure comes from unemployment fraud. The Labor Department reported about $87 billion in unemployment benefits that could have been paid improperly, with a significant portion attributable to fraud. No way. A government program is getting abused by people that don't want to work? No way! Wow! I'm shocked! Not really. Most of that figure comes from, let's see. The Secret Service says that it seized more than $1.2 billion while investigating unemployment insurance and loan fraud, and has returned more than $2.3 billion of fraudulently obtained funds by working with the financial partners and states to reverse transactions. The Secret Service says it has more than 900 active criminal investigations into pandemic fraud, with cases in every state, and 100 people have been arrested so far. Wait. I was told that nobody ever abuses government programs and nobody actually wants to be on government programs. That all of these people out there, the welfare queens and everything, that doesn't exist. That people only get the bare minimum and they only take the bare minimum. They never abuse government programs. So why is this any different? Oh, it's business leaders that are doing it. No, it sounds like it's mostly people who were employees at one point. That's what they said, the vast majority. But who would have thought that if you put a massive government program that's eligible to 350 million people, that a few people would have found a way to game the system? Agricultural economist warns that COVID shutdowns will cause food shortages and higher prices. From Ben Ziesloft. Agricultural economist Damian Mason has warned that renewed pinko-pox shutdowns will cause higher food prices and a wave of shortages. The food processing facilities will really be pushing it because they're already under capacity, because they can't get workers. Mason, who also owns a farm in Indiana, told Fox Business. Omicron implications will limit capacity that's already limited and will increase prices due to curtailing supply and may even put a fear jolt into grocery availability again. The worst thing would be government-imposed shutdowns of the facilities because it would spike shortages. Mason discussed the threat of regulation, defined to the outlet as when increased operational and production costs imposed by expanded government regulation combined with already rampant inflation in the marketplace. Yeah. You know, just like I said, when they put Hong Kong Biden into the office and he started putting regulations back into place. The same government that told you food inflation was a mere 5.4% despite evidence to the contrary also told you that the pain you're feeling at the grocery checkout is transitory or temporary, Mason said. It's not. Food prices will continue to accelerate and are likely to outpace the rate of overall inflation due to the reasons I've outlined above, none of which are going away. Welcome to the era of regulation, where rules and policy make it more expensive to eat. Earlier this month, the BLS revealed that the consumer price inflation of the U.S. has reached a rate of 6.8%. The largest year-over-year increase since June of 1982. The largest increase of my life, by the way, because I was born in 84. As well as the sixth straight month in which inflation remained above 5%. Prices for meat, poultry, and fish have risen by 13.1%, while fruit and vegetables have risen by 4%. Yeah, we talked about yesterday too, because Warren came out yesterday and says, "Oh, it's just those evil grocers. It's not us. It's not our policies. It's just those evil grocers. Husband person, would you like a beer? I would like a beer." I gotta split with Sticks on this one too, because he always says, "Ha ha ha, oh, well, Elizabeth Warren is out there, and with her little piss beer, her Rolling Rock." I fucking like Rolling Rock. I enjoy Rolling Rock. When I do drink beer, and it's not often anymore because I don't really drink anymore, but when I do, it's liquor. But when I do drink beer, I liked the pale, mild flavor of the Rolling Rock. I enjoyed it. I did. But, yeah. If they shut it down, just like I said. Speaking of economic impacts of the Pinko Pox, from News 4 Jacksonville, thank you to Midget B from the Porch Boys over in the Discord for bringing this to my attention. Pause on student loan payments is extended through May 1st. I'm going to admit, I'm a little surprised by this one. I actually am. Because I didn't think the big bank donors would be in line with this. You know, yes, the loans are federally backed, and the federal government is technically the one who's putting this out there, but they have independent servicers out there who are collecting the interest, who are keeping their doors open on the interest off this. They haven't had a payment in 2 years off these loans. And that's going to be a problem for them coming forward at some point here. I was all ready to get the popcorn out and watch this backfire on Biden. But we'll be having the same argument back in May, by the way, which will be fun. The Biden admin Wednesday extended a student loan moratorium that has allowed tens of millions of Americans to put off their debt during the pandemic. Under the action, payments on federal student loans will remain paused through May 1st. Interest rates will remain at 0% during that period, and debt collection efforts will be suspended. Those measures have been in place since early in the pandemic, but were set to expire on January 31st. I wonder if this is a way to make sure that people get their full refunds back too, because especially if some of the people who are deep in default are getting their refunds appropriated, and now they think they're getting all this money. In fact, I would, if he can hold off the banks for the next 4 years, if he can actually do it, or the next 3 years, I should say, I am pretty positive that they are trying to set this up so this comes to a crashing, collapsing halt under a different president. President Biden said financial recovery from the pandemic will take longer than job recovery, especially for those with student loans, especially with those who are refusing to go back to work. Wait. Am I on? Is this thing on? We know that millions of student loan borrowers are still coping with the impacts of the pandemic and need some more time before resuming payments, he said in a statement, adding it was an issue that he and the vice president both care deeply about. No, she does not care about that. She cares about getting cheap labor to go put out wildfires in California. That's what she cares about. The Omicron variant that has swept through the U.S. with a fury has lent to new urgency to the question of whether the moratorium would be extended. Admin officials had initially said that they expected the January extension to be the last, but even as the economy improves, there are concerns that borrowers are not ready to start payments again. Once the moratorium ends, those who are already behind on payments could have wages and benefits taken away as part of the debt collection efforts. Well, if collections have been suspended for 2 years, then that would be illegal. See, that's the thing. And that's the big thing. If you're in a situation in which the government has said you're not allowed to make payments, and from what I understand, and I don't know this because my loans are private, from what I understand, if you're in this situation and you're still trying to make payments on there, the servicers aren't even allowed to take your payments right now. I cannot confirm this because I'm not in that situation, but that's the way that I understand how this is working. The policy applies to more than 36 million Americans who have student loans that are held by the federal government. Their collective debt is more than $1.37 trillion, according to the latest Education Department data. About a third of borrowers are in default or delinquency, and the average monthly payment is $400 a month. Officials said the pause also helps about 5 million other borrowers currently in school who are not yet paying back loans but are accruing interest. So, yep, he caved to the progressives. Watch this happen again in May. You know what? And here's one thing that I do want to come back out and point out to this. This is actually kind of shitty strategy. If you look at this from a strategic lens, this is shitty strategy. Unless, of course, they're trying to push the can down the road to get it out to 2025 at this point. This is absolute shit strategy, because once this comes back up again, once we have this argument again, coming into the midterms, the voters who are going to go to the polls, which is always a lower turnout on midterm elections, but the voters who are going to go to the polls are going to have this fresh in their mind of, hey, every few months, we have to have this conversation again of, hey, am I going to get deferred? Am I not? Am I going to get deferred? Am I not? It's the same thing with DACA. They're in limbo right now. They're neither in good financial standing with their student loans, nor in bad financial standing. Just like the illegals, they're neither legal nor illegal. But we'll see what happens with that. From Fox News. Biden, Democrats face grim findings in 2 new polls. From Dom Colicchio. President Biden and congressional Democrats are getting less done in Washington than a plurality of voters expected, according to a new poll. Meanwhile, a separate poll released this week shows Biden's approval rating reaching the lowest point in his presidency. Always check the aggregate. Always check the aggregate. Not individual polls. Individual polls can be honk-honked. The sluggish poll results emerged as the Biden admin was grappling with inflation fears among the American consumers, a new rise in the pinko pox cases prompting governments and businesses alike to adopt protocols similar to those in 2020, and the stalling of the president's policy agenda in Congress, where Biden's Build Back bullshitted spending plan ran into an obstacle in the form of Democratic Senator Joe Manchin's decision not to support the legislation. In a poll conducted December 18th to 20th by Morning Consult and Politico, 41% of respondents said congressional Democrats have accomplished less than they expected, compared to 10% saying they accomplished more than they expected, and 32% saying they accomplished about what they expected. If I'd have been in this poll and I wasn't, I would actually probably be in the 10% because I thought that this was just going to be a do-nothing presidency. I mean, that's the thing, is that's what the presidency ran on. That's what Biden ran on. I don't have to do anything. I'm just not evil and orange. And orange and evil. Come on, man. Vote for me. What do you got to lose? That was their entire campaign. So, and that's from Politico, which, by the way, somebody tried to say that Politico was a right-wing rag the other day. I laughed at that. I had to laugh at that. That was yesterday. I read Politico literally every day. Every morning, there's at least one Politico article on here. Every single day, I read Politico. I'm not just parroting what some progressive senator told me to parrot. I actually read the news site, and they are closer to communist propaganda than anything else. But they don't always do the communist propaganda. So they're evil and right-wing. From Newsweek. QAnon-friendly event. Attendees are coming down with sick. They think it's anthrax. This is the world we live in. From Anders Anglesby. Conspiracy influencers who recently attended a QAnon-friendly event in Texas believe they have suffered an anthrax attack after many of them became ill. Supposedly dozens of people who attended the Reawaken America tour in Dallas, earlier this month, claimed they became ill with anthrax poisoning after they gathered in the green room during the event. Podcast host Joel Altman, who has promoted claims of widespread fraud during the 2020 presidential election, said a December 19th Telegram post that he had recently been sick. He later revealed that Joan Pulitzer, who was also promoted baseless claims of voter fraud, he was very sick after attending the Reawaken America Tour event. On December 21st Telegram post, Joel Altman said, Joan Pulitzer is in a bad place right now. Please pray for him. Bring the spirit of healing upon him. In Jesus' name, amen. Might be anthrax. Stay tuned. Yeah. Here's the thing. Well, I don't believe all the propaganda around the pinko-pox is true. It's still out there. It's still extremely transmissible. It still exists. And if you gather in large places, you accept the responsibility of gathering in large places, which means you might get sick. That was true back when it was just the influenza. That was true when it was the common cold. If you gathered in places, especially in the wintertime, if you gathered into a large crowded area in the wintertime, you accepted the risk that you might get the cold from something. You might get a cold, you might get the flu, you might get a stomach bug. You might get something that's airborne transmissible. That's always been the risk. And honestly, if you're coming out here to try to say that it's anthrax, knowing that this is, I will give the fact that a lot of these people don't believe this thing exists. I will give them that, I will give the mainstream media that point. A lot of these people believe that pinko-pox is absolutely nothing, it doesn't exist. But yeah, if you went out, you accepted and mitigated your risk. And people used to be willing to accept that risk too, by the way. I mean, hell, every time you cross the street, you accept the risk that you could get hit by a Buick. I'm afraid of getting hit by a Buick. I still go out and cross the street. What I do know is Jovan is sick. I have been sick. Not near as bad as him. He has all the signs of some sort of anthrax or derivative. I asked him to get tested, and he agreed. Despite making claims, Altman provided no evidence that he and others had been victims of an anthrax attack. So, yeah, they think it's anthrax. I don't know why they think it's anthrax, but they think it's anthrax. From the Daily Mail. Biden admin announces plans to plug the gaps in Trump's wall after stopping construction, with migrant facilities still overcrowded and the border crisis showing no signs of slowing. We're gonna build a wall, and I think Mexico is gonna pay for it, and it's gonna be a great and glorious wall, man. Come on. From Caitlin Corral. The Brandon administration on Monday authorized further barrier projects to fill gaps in Trump's border wall, in contradiction with previous orders to cancel funding for the project. The Department of Homeland Security announced Customs and Border Protection is moving forward with addressing life, safety, environmental, and remediation requirements for border barrier projects, which were previously under the purview of the Defense Departments. The DHS will use border barrier funds and work with CBP officials in El Paso, Texas, and Tucson and Yuma, Arizona sectors to close the gaps left open when Biden halted construction on Trump's border wall project. While the agency noted the type of work that is required will vary by sector, it added that a large majority of the incomplete DoD 284 projects are located within the Tucson sector. Biden ordered on day one that funds be prevented from going into the building of the border wall, but DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas now says it's necessary to address safety and environmental issues. The authorized work, a DHS statement noted on Monday, will include adding missing gates, addressing incomplete foundations, and connecting power to gates that are already hung but are currently inoperable. So, they're gonna build a wall. I was told that the wall was racist and it needed to be stopped. In fact, Pedo O'Rourke has come out and said, "No, brah. We've got to tear the wall down, brah. I'm going to skateboard up to the wall and I'm going to push it down. We're going to tear this wall down, brah. And get more people in here, brah." The wall's going to fall when I shred on my epic guitar. And I'm gonna do the hacking and get it down, brah. Jen Psaki in the news. Take that, Scrooge. Jen Psaki claims President Biden saved Christmas. White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain immediately stepped all over her point. From Virginia Kruta. White House Press Secretary Red-haired bobblehead claimed Wednesday that President Biden had saved Christmas by delivering on his promise of stocked shelves ahead of the coming holiday. Early Wednesday, Psaki shared a New York Times, a former newspaper, article titled "Why Christmas Gifts Are Arriving on Time This Year," along with the comment, "Take that, Scrooge, the Grinch, and all the doubters that this could happen. Also, shelves are stocked at 90%. Pre-pandemic levels are 91%. Psaki noted that in-store stock levels were nearly back up to pre-pandemic levels. What the fuck store are you going to? Because I was in the Target the other day, and it's not. In fact, most of those shelves were empty, or half full. Once someone commented on her tweet wondering when Republicans were going to acknowledge everything President Biden has done to untangle the supply chain and say thank you, Psaki replied, "Hard same." Psaki doubled down on the claim during Wednesday's White House press briefing, once again citing the New York Times, a former newspaper, article saying, as the New York Times said today, Christmas gifts are arriving on time this year. Good news, we've saved Christmas, and that's because President Biden recognized this challenge early, acted as an honest broker to bring key stakeholders together, and focused on addressing problems across the global supply chain. Let's listen.
But as the New York Times said today, Christmas gifts are arriving on time this year. Good news, we've saved Christmas. And that is because President Biden recognized this challenge early, acted as an honest broker to bring key stakeholders together, and focused on addressing practical problems across the global supply chain. Here are just a few key points of progress. The number of containers sitting on the docks at the ports of LA and Long Beach for over 8 days have fallen by nearly 50%. The average amount of time containers sit on docks has fallen by a week. The price of shipping a container between Asia and the West Coast has fallen by more than 25% since its peak in September. And as the president also referenced, the stocks on shelves is at about 90%, retail stocks on shelves at about 90% inventory. It was about 91% pre-pandemic, just to give you a sense. So people can go purchase presents even at this point if they haven't done their shopping.
You know what the worst part about doing a morning show is? I can't drink away the pain of listening to that woman talk. Pete Buttplug posted a similar tweet bragging about the steps that the Brandon administration had taken to untangle the supply chains ahead of the Christmas holiday, claiming credit for stocked shelves and expected retail boom. But White House Chief of Staff Ron Klain did not appear to get the memo, claiming that Biden was responsible for righting the ship, and he suggested that supply chain kings had simply been a collective of hallucinations shared by media. Klain also shared the New York Times article, but with a different comment. Merry Christmas to all, and this overhyped narrative. Seems kind of hard to take credit for having turned the tide with a considerable number of supply chain actions the administration has touted in recent weeks, yet their position was that it was just all a media narrative, San Francisco Chronicle Washington correspondent Tal Copan remarked. Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate of him. Look, I don't know if it's just in the bigger cities, but even going to Milwaukee the other day, there was a considerable drop in the amount of stuff that you're used to seeing on shelves, even in Milwaukee. I don't know what there is in Madison because I don't shop there. But even in Milwaukee, there seemed to be a considerable drop in everything. Our local Target I mean, it's not empty shelves. I'm trying to shop for a 3-year-old right now, but our local Target, it's not empty shelves, but it is definitely a significant reduction in inventory for stuff for kids and stuff for everybody else too. The grocery store. There are several items that I normally get that are either reduced or not there at all. So yes, your coastal elites might still be going up and doing good, but hey, you'll take care of your donors first. The rest of us in Middle America are still seeing some of this stuff. From 6 Action News. Sources: Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon's stolen vehicle located in Delaware. Why did she have a stolen vehicle? From 6 ABC Digital Staff. Sources confirmed to Action News that Congresswoman Mary Gay Scanlon's vehicle that was stolen Wednesday afternoon in Philadelphia has been found in Delaware. Delaware State Police and the FBI made the discovery in the area of Christiana Mall, sources say. 5 occupants were also reportedly located in the stolen vehicle. It's still unclear the involvement of those individuals at this time. The carjacking happened around 2:45 p.m. in the 1900 block of Pattison Avenue on FDR Park in a tour including members of Congress. Scanlon was walking to her parked vehicle and was approached by 2 men driving a dark-colored SUV. Both men, who were armed, demanded the keys to her vehicle, police say. They took off with her blue 2017 Acura MDX. I'm not going to read the license plate. I don't know why the fuck they have it in here. It was last seen being driven westbound on Pattison toward Penrose. Her personal cell phone, government cell phone, purse, and ID were inside the vehicle. Scanlon was not injured. She did not want to comment as she left South detectives. Yeah, so here's my question. What are you doing to address the growing crime in your district? When crime has become so brazen that your local rep is actually getting hit by it. I mean, that's never going to happen in Nancy Pelosi's district because she doesn't live in her district, but I mean, at what point do you look at this and say, hey, it might be time to host some sort of intervention here? I'm not saying we're going to solve all the problems right away, but it might be time to start looking at some of this shit. And a little bit closer to home for me, Illinois State Senator Kimberly Lightford, husband carjacked in Broadview, police say. From Liz Nagy and ABC7 Chicago Digital Team. The second highest ranking Democrat in the Illinois Senate was the victim of an armed carjacking in the west suburbs. Illinois State Senator Kimberly Lightford and her husband were carjacked in suburban Broadview Tuesday night, police said. According to the Broadview Police Department, the incident happened around 9:45 p.m. in the 2000 block of South 20th Avenue. Police said 3 men driving a Durango took a black Mercedes-Benz SUV. Okay, I have questions. That belonged to Lightford, police said. The state Senate Majority Leader was dropping her hairstylist off at her home when the incident occurred. Okay, I have a lot more questions. She came in the house and she was saying, they're hijacking the car, said Cynthia Boyd, who witnessed the armed carjacking. Police said 3 men jumped out of the Durango and surrounded Lightford and her husband in their SUV. They had guns at her, Boyd said. All 3 of them, they had a gun and was pointing guns at her and her husband. Boyd said the hairstylist scrambled inside and dialed 911 while the trio of gunmen terrorized the state senator. She was saying, don't shoot my husband, please don't shoot my husband, take whatever you want, Boyd recalled. So they took her purse, they took her car, and everything that was in the car, and they took off. Police said multiple gunshots were fired during the incident, but they did not indicate who fired the shots. Witnesses said they heard 10 to 15 gunshots. Well, I mean, in Broadview, how would you tell the difference? How would you know the difference in Broadview, Illinois, when there are 10 to 15 gunshots and the chorus of the other ones that are coming off of that? I'm kidding. Broadview's not that bad. Once again, I'm not saying it's time to run out and solve all the problems, but I'm saying it might be time to start looking at different strategies here. From Politico, the horrible, evil, right-wing rag, Politico. Dan Crenshaw to his fellow conservatives. Come correct. From Olivia Beavers. He voted with Trump most of the time, but isn't a loyalist. He is a stalwart conservative, willing to criticize other conservatives. Rep. Dan Crenshaw is, in short, a neocon bullshitter and a grifter. Yeah, I'm not going to read what's actually on the screen there because that's what he is. He's a war hawk. He's a grifter. He'll do anything he can to stay to war. In the roiling cauldron of Republican politics, where one perceived misstep can get a lawmaker scorched by the ex-president, or the entire right-wing online ecosystem, Crenshaw's candor stands out. We like him because he says mean things about Marjorie Taylor Greene. It sparked ire on the right earlier this month for comments caught on tape in his home state of Texas that separated his fellow House Republicans into two camps. Performance artists, ones you think are more conservative because they know how to say slogans real well, and legislators. The 37-year-old former SEAL also challenged in perception about the party that most other Republicans don't want to hear. In the same video, Crenshaw pointed out that Adam Kinzinger, who was excommunicated from the party for condemning Trump, voted with the former president during his 2017 and 2018 more reliably than everyone in the ultra-conservative House Freedom Caucus. There is nothing conservative about the House Freedom Caucus. They are populistic, if anything. There is absolutely zero conservative about them. They will turn on a dime if their voters and constituents come out and say, start spending money on giving us welfare. They will turn on a dime for that. They will turn on a dime in a second, depending on what the people tell them to do. There is nothing conservative about these people. Anyone who listens to Crenshaw and concludes that he's moving away from Trump, though, isn't listening closely enough. As he sees it, his party needs to back up the rhetorical bombs with facts. When fellow Republicans can't do that, he'd prefer they pipe down. Here's the problem with Dan Crenshaw and the situation at hand. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a performance artist. I don't even know if she's conservative. I do think that she was put in place to be kind of a court jester in a very, very reliably safe red district. To come out and, do the little dance and make everybody say, ha ha, Mega's still alive. Hey, look, she's got the right enemies. Ha 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 ha. Dance puppet. I do think she was put in there. I have a little bit less suspicion of Boebert, but I do have suspicion of Boebert. Gates is just so cringe. He can't even be real. I'm sorry, Gates is the kitty diddler who is inadvertent apparently. Yeah, he's still cringe enough that he can't be real. Gosar is one of those. He's courting the glowy ones out there to come out and say, hey, look, I can be racist like the rest of you. This can all be true. And Dan Crenshaw can still be a miserable, warmongering prick who has no business being anywhere near the levers of government. All the things I said before can be true, and Dan Crenshaw can only be concerned about, let's go drop another bomb in Saudi Arabia because we need to spread more Christianity in the Middle East. I mean democracy, but Christianity. I mean more war. This was interesting. I found this one kind of funny. Shit, we're going to run out of time here. Again. Because I always run out of time here. How far do I want to go? I think we'll go to this one. Because we're running up on the clock. And then thing I like and thing that I hate. Wall Street Journal to AOC Biscuit. Put your money where your loud mouth is and run against Chuck Schumer. From Chris Field. New York Socialist Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, like many of the nation's leftist progressives, has long lamented the undemocratic nature of the U.S. Senate. These folks lament that states like Wyoming and Idaho have the same representation in the Senate as New York and California, now do representatives, but they repeatedly fail to understand that the purpose of the Senate is not to be a representation of the people but of the states. It's the House that represents the people. Even the left's judicial nominees can't seem to get this straight. Just look at Dale Ho, President Biden's pick for the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. He went so far as to call the U.S. Senate not merely undemocratic, but anti-democratic. Yes. An interesting take from the guy looking to land a lifetime job in the third co-equal branch of government that doesn't get voted on by the public or the people's house. But back to AOC biscuit. After West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin sounded the death knell for Biden's Build Back bullshit boondoggle, this year AOC complained, erroneously, that it wasn't fair for Manchin's vote to have so much power since her congressional district has at least as many people as the whole Mountain State. It doesn't. But our horse-teethed friend didn't let that stand in the way. She went on to call it a farce in terms of plain democracy. Then she blasted the institution of the Senate herself. It's unconscionable the way the Senate operates. It's fundamentally undemocratic, the Wall Street Journal reported. Oh, that was the AOC quote. What we really need, puppy, to do is crack down on the Senate, which operates like the old boys club that has a couple gals in it that have managed to break through. So, the Journal's editorial board offered a suggestion to AOC Biscuit in Wednesday's editorial, which we have here. From the Wall Street Journal, run, Miss Cortez, run. From the editorial board, from somebody who was so fucking shy or so fucking ballless that they couldn't even put their name to this op-ed. From the editorial board. The Honorable and Venerable Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D-Twitch, the celebrated socialist, is very unhappy with Joe Manchin in the U.S. Senate these days. It is unconscionable the way the Senate operates. It's fundamentally undemocratic, puppy, she said Monday after Manchin had announced his opposition to the Build Back Bullshit Act. What we really need to do is crack down on the Senate, puppy, which operates like an old boys club that has a couple of gals in it that managed to break through, okay? If that's how she really feels, here's an idea. Run against Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer next year. The New York City Congresswoman has played coy for a year on a potential Democratic primary run. Why not finally drop the pretense and have the courage of her loud convictions? Some might shudder at the prospect, but what difference would it make at this point? In January, we wrote an editorial. Schumer in his shadow, as the powerful senator seemed to mimic every demand from AOC Biscuit. He's echoed her plan to forgive student loans and adopted more or less the entire progressive agenda. He supports blowing up the filibuster rule, as does AOC Biscuit. And he did it again on Monday in calling for a Senate floor vote on the Build Back bullshit as Miss Ocasio-Cortez commanded. She's already the shadow majority leader, so she might as well try to make it official if the Senate is so awful. Run it to win and clean it up. Let's see if New York voters agree. Here's the problem. Now, with a simple majority in New York needed, and the vast majority of the population centered around 60 square miles of the state, it's possible. But a progressive socialist has to not only court the voters of New York City and her district. Like she doesn't just have to court one progressive district, and she's been very vocal about her lack of respect for people who are neoconservative or neoliberal, I should say. Or even conservative at this point. Anybody who isn't a raging socialist, she doesn't have any time for. And I don't think she can make it. I don't think she can swing it. I don't think that New York has any hope or dream in the future of, at least anywhere in the near future, having a Republican senator. I don't think that's possible right now in today's political climate. But I think primary-wise, she will be roundly rejected by the people of upstate. And I don't think that there's enough there to get her over the finish line against Schumer. I am positive that seat's going to be filled with a Democrat at one point, the next time Schumer comes up. I don't think it's going to be that Democrat. I mean, it'd be fun to watch. It would be fun to watch. And here's the other side of that, too. It would be fun to see her get knocked out of her House seat to go to run for this and then get shamed by Schumer and knocked down again. And then go on to be a MSNBC contributor. But, well, go ahead, put your money where your mouth is. But I mean, before I get into that, I do want to step back on that for just a second too, because it's kind of the same thing that Gillibrand used to be. I looked into Gillibrand a little bit when she ran for president, and it seems that before, when she was, because she was a representative somewhere upstate, somewhere. And while she was a Democrat representative still, she was very pro-gun. She was very pro-small business. I mean, she was like a Manchin-type Democrat when she was in upstate. When she was in upstate New York, she was a very, 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 very conservative Democrat, as far as I can tell. But once she had to start courting New York City, she had to go start doing these big anti-gun things too. Once her round constituency was not just the people of a rural region in upstate New York, she had to go start courting people who were cosmopolitan, who hated guns and wanted progressivism and socialism. It goes both ways. It absolutely does. A couple more here, then we'll do thing I like and thing that I hate. We'll be running up on the clock again today, but that's what it's going to be, unfortunately. House Committee seeks to interview GOP firebrand Rep. Jim Jordan about January 6th. From Zachary Cohn and Annie Grayer. The House Witch Hunt Committee, investigating the Selfie Fest, has asked Rep. Jim Jordan, one of former President Trump's top congressional allies, to voluntarily meet with the panels as it zeroes in on Republican lawmakers who may have significant knowledge of the events leading up to the U.S. Capitol Selfie Fest. Jordan previously warned the committee that targeting GOP lawmakers in any capacity would be met with political retribution if Republicans retake the House after next year's midterm elections. Jordan was originally selected by the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to be one of the 5 GOP members serving on the committee back in July, but Nancy Pelosi rejected McCarthy's selection of Jordan along with Jim Banks because she said their appointments could impact the integrity of the investigation. And now they want his help. Well, this is for the most part bullshit, and we're going to see what happens with this as we get up to the midterms and everything goes off of that. Wanking sounds ensue. Alright, this one here, I wanted to talk about this for just a second. As my phone goes off once again. I don't even know how the ringer got turned on. It's been on since last night. And I didn't think about it because I never have it on. Chicks on the Right says, you know all those documentaries you've watched about a dictator's path to power? You know, there's always the bit where you think, why didn't the people do something? They could have stopped him while there was still time. That's the bit that we're at. That is a screenshot of George Monbiot's tweet, which I don't know why he's blue-checked either, because it's on Instagram. But I found a comment here, like right before I was going live, when I was finishing up and organizing. I found this comment over here. Joey P68 says, but what do we do at this point besides refuse to comply? And I pointed this out, and that's the same thing. And as we talk about January 6th, that is the same thing. I said, that's what you do. You refuse to comply. And let them bring the fight to you. If you bring the fight to the federal government, you're all fish in a barrel that they can use, and they can use your corpse for their patriotic agenda. C-16. But they can't hunt people on the street and stack bodies for long as the aggressors without even the most of their ardent fans starting to say, hey, wait a minute. And I stopped at that, but I mean, if the government comes out, if you bring the fight to the government and they start shooting you down like Ashley Babbitt over and over again, they stack the bodies up outside the federal government, and then they say, these evil insurrectionists tried to take over the government, but we stopped them because we care about you, even though they don't. We stopped them for your safety. You're a propaganda piece at that point. They can put you up there and say, it's patriotic, we stopped the evil Trump insurrection. But if they come out to the streets, come after you, over and over again, put you in a cell, pull you off the street, or, like I said in the post, start stacking bodies. Even their most ardent, neoliberal, happiness is a thing called Joe fans are going to start looking at this and saying, hey, wait a fucking minute here. Are we the bad guys? And by the way, that's why I keep telling people. That's why I keep telling people over and over again. Don't bring the fight to the federal government. When they say that there's going to be another great big rally in D.C. for the next time around, for the January 6th anniversary, for the Justice for J6, don't go. Stay as far away from D.C. as you can. If they have another big rally in D.C., I might be too close to D.C. at this point. I might have to go like to North Dakota or something to get far enough away from D.C. to not be implicated. I might be too close to D.C. and I live in fucking Wisconsin. But do not comply. Let them bring the fight to you. If they are so ardent, so ready to start killing you, putting you in a cage, killing you, taking everything that you have, over some executive order, let them bring it to you. And there are some people that are going to die, by the way, because of that, unfortunately. But it's not going to take long for the government to start stacking bodies before they say, hey, shit, this ain't right. All right, we've got one here from our friends over at NPR. Proud Boys members plead guilty for role in the Capitol riot. This is from Kerry Johnson. And really, honestly, I'm pretty sure the Proud Boys glow at this point. You all know it. But we can't say it over here because over here at NPR, the Proud Boys are just another evil organization of white supremacists. They're so white supremacist, they have a Puerto Rican leader. And we have to save the world and the country from these evil white supremacists. So make sure you donate. Donate to NPR. Make sure that you get them your money, or our money, comrade, because the taxpayer subsidies do not cover everything that we need to. We need a bigger reach to spread our communist ideals. So hit that donate button. It's our money, comrade, not your money. And help us out. Never Printing Reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what they had to say. Matthew Green, a self-proclaimed member of the far-right group known as the Pride Boys, has pleaded guilty in federal court in Washington, D.C. to 2 criminal charges, conspiracy and obstruction of a non-official proceeding, related to the Capitol Selfie Fest on January 6th. The plea deal pledges Green's cooperation with the sprawling January 6th criminal probe in exchange for a reduced prison sentence, and the dismissal of several other charges that have been pending against him. Green would help investigators, which means he's turning on you guys. Do you still have faith in the Pride Boys? Understand more about the activities of the Pride Boys Central New York chapter before and during the Selfie Fest. He has been indicted alongside Dominic Pizzola, who broke the U.S. Capitol window with a police shield to enter the building that day, and William Pepe, a Metro Transit employee who took sick leave to attend the January 6th Selfie Fest. Green of Syracuse was arrested in April and has been detained in government custody for months. Green appeared via video before Judge Tim Kelly Wednesday, asked if he would give up his right to a jury trial and plead guilty. Green replied, "I do, Your Honor." Green's lawyer said he had no prior criminal history. So he's going to go do a dime, and in turn is going to turn around and sell out all of his little friends. You guys still trust the Proud Boys after this? I wanted to go over this one just briefly before we head out of here for the day, before we do things I like and things that I hate. This one comes to us from American Greatness, which I don't know anything about. This is the first time I've seen this, but once again, even though it's not green check verified, it still gives, it's a good jumping off point. It's a good point for you to think about the narrative that's been brought to you. I would not consider this bringing all the facts, but I would consider this as a point of, hey, let's actually go look into some of this stuff. Let's go see if the narrative that's been presented to me is actually true, or if I can find other things to break this down. So reading from AmericanGreatness.com, amgreatness.com. Was the FBI's Whitmer chicanery a warm-up for January 6th? By removing 3 dirty cops from the witness list, the Justice Department hopes to prevent any cross-examination during the trial and one supposes any link to the Selfie Fest. From Julie Kelly. As questions mount about the government's animating role in the Capitol protests on January 6th, the criminal case against the men charged with conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer in 2020 continues to collapse. Defense attorneys in the Whitmer case are carefully compiling evidence per informant at one point. FBI agents handling the informants directed every move. They funded training and reconnaissance trips, and even organized a national militia conference in Ohio in June 2020 to lure potential accomplices. Several men were arrested in October 2020 when the lead informant drove them to meet an undercover FBI agent to purchase munitions, the 6-month-long scheme's dramatic conclusion. News of the shocking plot made national headlines as early voting was underway in Michigan. Biden, Whitmer, and the media blamed Donald Trump for inciting an attempted domestic terror attack. Sound familiar? As I explained in an October column, the plan to abduct Whitmer, who had a very public feud with Trump during 2020, originated from Operation Cold Snap, an undercover multi-state FBI spy ring intended ostensibly to surveil militia groups opposed to states' lockdown policies. Henrik Impola, one of the FBI special agents managing the Whitmer kidnapping plan, confirmed the existence of Operation Cold Snap in sworn testimony early this year. From the FBI through the Domestic Terrorism Operations Center, I was aware of other FBI investigations in Baltimore and Milwaukee and Cincinnati and Indiana involving other militia members, Impola told the judge in March. Impola's role in the Whitmer caper in fact stemmed from his work as a case agent for Operation Cold Snap. The 11-year Bureau veteran had spent his entire career investigating counterterrorism, including militia extremism, which enabled Impola to designate the Wolverine Watchmen, a Facebook group with no real organization coincidentally formed just months before the sting, a terror enterprise to justify the government's central involvement in rigging the kidnapping scheme. Impola, working out of a satellite office in Flint that reports Michigan's only FBI field office in Detroit, was deeply involved in every facet of the Whitmer plot. His testimony is crucial to persuading a jury that the men on trial conspired to abduct Whitmer from her vacation home last year. But Impola will not testify during the trial, scheduled to begin March 8th. The judge overseeing the case delayed the original November trial date after defense attorneys requested more time to investigate the government's informants and agents. BuzzFeed News reported over the weekend that Impola won't be on the government's witness list after defense attorneys accused Impola of perjury in another case. In fact, the Justice Department notified the court on Friday that all 3 of the top FBI agents in charge of the Whitmer investigation, including Impola, will not testify on behalf of the government amid accusations of misconduct, domestic abuse charges, and political bias. Yes, 3 of the people who were supposed to be witnesses of this. Now, I don't know if the defense can come back and subpoena these people and use them as defense witnesses. I don't know. But it's interesting to me that people who were at the center of this, who would actually have some sort of knowledge of what's going on, can't testify because of a criminal charge in another case, because of perjury in another case, or anything else like that. And like the article said, it's a possibility that they're trying to be protected from Cross. It's something that we talked about with the Chauvin case. Because a cross on Chauvin probably would not have turned out well for Chauvin. I think it was the right idea for him not to take the stand. In fact, I thought it was a stupid idea for Kim Potter to take the stand. And even though it wound up turning out well for him, I thought it was a stupid idea for Rittenhouse to take the stand. I thought that was a stupid thing. It turned out well, eventually, but I thought that was a stupid thing. You don't know what the opposing attorneys are going to ask. You have no idea. And without a cross, you got nothing. But, like I say, this is not green check verified. This is just a good jumping off point. I will put this in the Discord and the Twitter. I'll put this article up there. Just once again, just kind of start to look around and investigate things. Find all the facts to draw your own conclusions, because this is an interesting concept and an interesting idea. And just like I say with the government, don't bring the fight to the government. If you're out there angry at the government, and somebody comes out there and says, "Hey, boy, I know you're angry with the government. Hey, let's come out here and let's bring the fight up to the government," it's probably a trap. Let them bring the fight to you. Fuck, Afghanistan did it for 20 years. Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Syria. They let the U.S. government bring the fight to them, and the U.S. government got their asses waxed. Fuck, Vietnam for that matter. The people who came up to try to mow down the American forces, for the most part, got killed. But when the American forces went into home territory to other people, they didn't fare so well. Let the government bring the fight to you, in any case. But that's what we see for that. That's where we're going to stop the news for the day. We'll catch up with the rest of these tomorrow while we're getting ready to do live chat. And now let's do a couple things I like and a thing that I hate. So, as usual, when I change shows, I usually tell you what I'm watching on Netflix, especially if I enjoy it, or Prime, or anything else. And by the way, if Aimless Gamer is watching this now or in the future somewhere, yes, after I finish up with this series, I will do The Expanse. I already have it scheduled. The Expanse is next. I have it saved on my Amazon Prime. I will go through and I will watch The Expanse just for you, because you keep asking me to do it. So once I finish up with this one, that'll be the next one. But this past week, because new episodes dropped and it came back up to the top of everything else that came off of here, I went out and checked out the remake of Lost in Space. Now, I am probably halfway through the first season right now. For the most part, enjoyable. I am not familiar with the original Lost in Space. I've never seen it. I'm going to see if I can find a place to stream it after I get done with The Expanse, just to see what the major difference was. But as somebody who's fresh to the franchise, who's new to the franchise, this was kind of enjoyable to see. Some of the sci-fi, some of the science in there is fairly on point. Some of it's extraordinary, but it could be to the point that we're not there with the science off of this. Lost in Space, as far as what I've seen, follows the Robinson family and the people surrounding the Robinson family who were on a relocation space station getting ready to go relocate themselves and bring themselves into Alpha Centauri, a planetary system around Alpha Centauri, in order to build a new life as the world that we lived on at the time was starting to collapse, both environmentally and politically. a group of people were set to go and resettle the new settlement, and the Robinson family was. Now, we start to see some of the problems in the Robinson family almost right away. We meet a couple of stowaways in this, people who weren't supposed to be on any of this, people who were out there just trying to make a buck or trying to make a new living with whiskey or drugs or anything else. And the iconic robot, Danger Will Robinson, turned out not to be owned by the Robinson family, as I understand it to be in the original. It turned out to be something they found along the way. If you haven't seen this one, and you have the Netflix, it's recommended. I think the first couple of episodes, in fact, I started this last week before Thing I Like and Thing That I Hate, and honestly, the first couple episodes, I would honestly come out and say, nah, maybe you should pass on this one. But by the third episode, the series got out of its own way, and the action was able to pick up, and you actually started to see some of the interpersonal relationships, some of the internal politics of the new colony that was forced because of the crash landing. And some of the actual story starts to develop, rather than just coming out here to try to be a lot of nostalgia and a lot of action and big budget box office stuff. So let's watch the trailer for Lost in Space, and that's one that'll come highly recommended.
We've been in some hard spots before, but we've always made it through.
Yeah, with Mom and Dad there to help us. Who knows where they are now?
I try not to think about them. It's that terrible. Because when I do, I wonder if there was something else I could have done to keep us all together.
We need to make it to the colony safely.
What are you doing?
Tell the robot to stop. That's not where we want to go.
Wait, those are Jupiters. That's our parents.
Why would it show us this?
These robots are relentless. They will tear the Jupiters apart to try and find the location of our kids.
Will. He wants something from Will. He always has.
The robots are gonna come for me.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Maybe the only way to put an end to this is to face the danger.
Why aren't you scared?
Who says I'm not? Sometimes you have to walk into dark places. Sometimes it's the only way to protect the people you love.
Which seat's mine?
I thought you were supposed to be dead.
I was supposed to be a lot of things. None of those worked out either.
We're lost.
So, I really liked, especially now. Once again, I'm looking at and probably getting a few spoilers off of reading or watching the season 3 trailer off of this. But one of the things that I really liked about this is coming and seeing the things that are going on there. I mean, you see the actual utter hopelessness of landing on a barren planet, an uninhabited planet, trying to make life go. You know, when you've planned out to go onto an actual a planet that they've already studied, that they know everything's going to go, and still have communication with a supply depot where you can still come back and get supplies, versus going into a place, crashing into a glacier, trying to figure out how to get out of the glacier, and trying to use the terraforming equipment to try to build a life for yourself in the situation you have, not the situation you wanted. The hopelessness of that and the human spirit to overcome hopelessness. I really like this series. This series is really good so far. I don't know what it's going to be like in the second season. I don't know what's going to be like in the back half of the first season. But thus far, from what I've seen of it, it's really good. And yeah, it is kind of like Ron said, a series version of the old 60s version. So definitely go and check that out. Definitely. And one other thing that I like before we go off of this, before we head out of here. Yeah, we'll be here tomorrow. Every weekday. Quest, you know that. Even on holidays. This one here, before we get into something I hate. Ron Filipkowski actually hit the nail on the head. Now, Filipkowski is a very, 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 very progressive left person. He's kind of an asshole. And he thinks that he's getting a dunk on conservatives. And in doing so, said probably one of the most based statements I've ever heard, to the point where I am almost ready to defend TPUSA because of this here. Ron Filipkowski says, the overall message / theme of the mostly college-aged attendees of TPUSA's America Fest 4 days. Get married young, have lots of kids, don't go to college, don't get vaccinated. The media and doctors are all liars. Arm yourself heavily to fight tyranny. Communists run the country. Based? Like, yes. That's exactly the message we're trying to put off of here. Except for the don't get vaccinated. Like I said, if this is the best way for you to defend yourself and your family's livelihood, then absolutely, yes, go get vaccinated. That's always been my stance right from the beginning. I don't believe that's the best way for me to defend myself, my family, and my livelihood, so I don't do it. But if you have come to the conclusion that's the best way to defend your livelihood, then by all means. If you want the thing, go and get it. But, based? Seriously? Based? Like, seriously. This guy's supposed to be a super leftoid, and he got it right on the head. So, there's that. Alright, let's do a thing that I hate. We talked about the supply chain issues and the fact that food is going on, but apparently our best friends are also going to be suffering from this, from Changing America. Pet owners are struggling to find pet food amid supply chain woes. As companies experience shortages of labor and materials as well as logistics hurdles, it's affecting the supply of pet food. From Shirin Ali. The supply chain crisis strikes again, and this time it's targeting furry creatures that have helped keep many people sane during the pandemic, as reports of pet food shortages roll in from around the country. As companies experience shortages of labor and materials as well as logistics hurdles, it's affecting the supply of pet food. This comes as pet ownership across the U.S. skyrockets. According to the American Pet Products Association, pet ownership in 2021 increased to about 70%. And in a survey, 35% of pet owners say they're spending more on their pets and pet supplies, including food, over the last 12 months. That's now being reflected in grocery stores. The Wall Street Journal reporting that pet food sales grew almost 7% over the past 52 weeks, ending November 27, compared to 2.3% for food overall. Many supermarkets unable to secure substitute items, too, leaving pet food shelves empty, according to Wall Street Journal. J.M. Smucker's company notified its retailers back in November that it would be limiting shipments of some of its pet food products. Through January 2023, the company cited supply chain challenges of wet food, which typically uses imported ingredients. That's a big issue for pet owners, as many animals require prescribed food or have dietary restrictions. When pets are forced to change the typical brand or flavor of food, it can cause physical reactions. Not the pets, dude. Not the pets. Now, and I know that my former pet, Orion, my ex's pet, I should say, to be accurate, but I mean, that dog loved me. Even though mommy and daddy weren't sleeping in the same bed anymore, that dog never stopped loving me. Always curled up right by my feet while I was working on solo videos, and always excited to see me come home. Always. And it broke my heart a little bit. Like, when her and I split, I wasn't that upset, but it broke my heart when she moved out and took Orion with her. It really did. That actually hurt a little bit. A lot, actually. But, I mean, for him, because so much of the dry food that he had problems with, he was actually on a complete raw meat diet, which dogs can do, by the way. Chicken with the bones in, as long as it's raw, because the splinters don't hurt them if they're raw. Their systems are actually designed to eat bird meat splinters, or to eat bird bones, as long as they're not cooked. Sometimes a little bit of red meat, sometimes some hamburger in there, some eggs sometimes. He loved to eat eggs with the shells on them. He loved that. And you don't always see that with pets, and like Katie Zed said, they can come back out and get the table scraps too. But yeah, I mean, it's such a shame that the members of our family who don't go out and produce, but we love them anyway because they produce happiness. They improve our lives, and I do miss having a pet a lot. That they have to suffer because of this too. And I hope this has come out, whether it be that some of these dogs go onto a raw meat diet, which is also getting expensive, by the way, with the 13% increase in meat, that they can get to the raw meat diet, or they can have the table scraps or anything else. I hope that these pets don't go hungry. I really do. I'm glad that they all got adopted, but I hope that they don't go hungry as a result off of this. So, F in the chat for the pets who will, unfortunately, to some extent, have a little bit of a shortage. Because you hate to see it, you really do. But with that, we're going to head out of here for the day. Change up the track and go. Oh, that was Marie. I'm sorry. That wasn't Katie Zed. That was Marie. I looked over on a glance too quickly. Thanks for the correction, Arbold. That is correct. All right, let's head out of here for the day. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat. Yes, Quest Fanning, we will have a show tomorrow. I hope that we don't have to do as much news as we've done in the past few days. I hope that we can do a couple stories, this little bit of catch up here, a couple stories to do, and then just do live chat or prayers or stuff throughout the day tomorrow. Unfortunately, we do have to do some of the news, but yeah, we'll come out here, we'll go check that out, we'll do some live chat, we'll hang out, we'll have some fun, it'll be a good day, and then I do have to go to work, and then I'm off. Tomorrow is my last day of work for the rest of the year, so I'm off after that. And we will come back and go and check that out as well. Come back and join me tomorrow. And we will have shows next week too. I don't know how I'm going to arrange it, but we'll have shows next week as well. But in all of this and everything else that's going along with this, come back and join us tomorrow for the Christmas Eve special for Contemporary. And we will see you next time as well. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.